Phil, I don't know how to feel about this, but they're moving up the ban and restricted announcement in between the Pittsburgh Eternal Weekend and the Luca Eternal Weekend, which we are going to both of. So we're going to have to possibly, I'm sure you're not going to have to, but I might have to adjust my deck depending on what happens.
Already, just I haven't even said anything yet, and we're already.
I don't know. What do you think they're going to ban Terminus?
I mean, hopefully they ban stuff until Terminus is good, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean that's sort of the point I wanted to get to is we do the ban and restricted announcement video every quarter when it happens, and that's sort of become a staple for our audience as far as known videos that we produce. I go through when I reach out to people and I ask them, what you think will change, blah blah. What do you think Wizards will do? And a lot of times people say Wizards won't do anything. And the people that said Wizards won't do anything last time, like they could have like bet on double green 0 on the like roulette table, because Wizards was like, not only we're not going to do anything, we're not going to do anything the next time too. They like literally were just like, we're doubling down on not showing this format any love, showing any format any love. After they banned like 6 cards from Standard, they were like, yeah, after we do this, we have no problem. I don't think there are any problems in any other formats. People love playing in every format. They think it's the healthiest it's ever been. Peace. We'll see you in December. Finding the right high-end cards for legacy, vintage, pre-modern, or old-school Magic can be challenging. That's where friends 3-for-1 trading come in.
3-for-1 Trading is buying all Magic the Gathering singles and entire collections, big and small. They're one of the top trading card game traders, buying way over 1 million Magic cards a year, and they are more than happy to make you an offer on your cards. In addition to sending in your cards, you'll also have the chance to sell and trade them at MagicCon Atlanta, taking place from September 26th to 28th. Huge thanks to 3-for-1 Trading for supporting the Legacy community. Now back to the show.
Right? And we're like, what?
Typically what I do first thing in the morning is I turn on the coffee pot, and then I take a pair of ankle shackles and tighten them real tight. That way I can barely walk for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess
Does the metaphor make sense, Zach? Is the metaphor coming through? I think that the thing that surprised me most was how much WotC's like, we really just want to hamstring ourselves from being able to take any agency over the thing that we're supposed to curate. And I get that there is some amount of the, like, we want people to be able to like go and play with their cards and at the events that they're planning to play in, and we don't want people constantly speculating.
But zero part of that calculation was in terms of, we hope people will take this into consideration when playing Eternal Weekend.
I think that the weird thing about it is to do the cadence always, like, to put all of the formats all together onto the same cadence as one thing. It's like, if you're concerned about the RCQ format or whatever, it's like, okay, then only put the structure of that ban list and those, like, self-contained like restrictions onto yourself for that RCQ format. Like, all the other formats that are not RCQ formats don't have to like wallow in shit while that one is just, a terrible experience and gets low turnout, because you don't want to take any action, because you want people to be able to like know that they can go and play their shitty experience without it being disrupted.
Well, here's the thing, Phil. Here's what I'm kind of wondering with this video. One, like, I'm going to obviously like reach out to people to make another BNR video, community BNR video. And, it would be nice if WotC watched that at some point and got any constructive criticism they could out of that. Cool. But I think I should ask a third question to every person. So we normally ask, what would you change for the health of the format? What do you think WotC will do? Right? But I think we need a third question. Is it time for a community panel?
I think you could skip the first question, and you could skip both questions and just go to that. Because
is it just say, hey, I don't care what your take is on, I could produce 2 videos and I could just record that and clip that one part out and make a whole video of, do you think there should be a community panel?
Well,
yes or no?
It's also because, like, what do you think needs to be done? That question, it's been the same thing for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Not
like, enough.
What do you think should be done? So it's like, we can have 40 people all say the exact same thing for the most part with a couple of outliers. But like, beyond that, it's just like, what is the actual problem? I don't know if the actual problem is format curation as much as the people who are curating it not giving it the time of day or the amount of attention that we, as the player base, want it to have. So, and the communication therein, because every time they start to suggest that they have some amount of knowledge about what's going on in the format, they embarrass themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
whether
no,
whether it's deep
like,
knowledge
it's
of the
nice that
format
you
on
wanna
Reanimator,
write-
on Oops, or back when they were like, yeah, leyline binding is coming in and changing everything. That was before Up the Beanstalk leyline binding even showed up. Like it wasn't around. And then like, you know, you could frame that as like, oh no, they knew the future. They didn't know the future. Leyline binding was showing up in Modern, and they were like, we'll just look at that as a means to like also talk about Legacy, and it just wasn't close. It was embarrassing. And then they did the same thing with Oops, and then like, you know, they've only been disappointing for the last however many times they've done it because they just want to keep it wallowing in shit. And I think like you can just jump all of the questions that everybody knows the answer to and get to the one that's actually curious and interesting, which is, hey, what if WotC wasn't at the helm of this thing and actually like outsourced it the way that they do Pauper?
Yeah, I mean, that is part of the draw, I think, for Premiere, right? Like,
before we dive into Premiere,
I don't want to go fully into Premiere.
I want to ask you: do you think that we need a legacy panel? And if so, who would disagree with that at this point?
Yeah, it's wild to think about who would disagree with that. Of course, my answer is yes. We've been beating that drum for years, right? But like, even like people who were vehemently against it, Bryant Cook, who was my biggest retractor on whether or not a panel could happen. Every time I would post something, Bryant would be like, no.
And to be fair, honestly, like good points on Bryant's end too.
Yeah, no, I'm not even shitting on it. Like, I think there are valid points on each side here for that, but I just think my point's way correct. You know,
I think that like what he was saying before about like not trusting, like who do you even put on the panel that you could trust? Like I agree with that to an extent. Like as much as like I have a grasp on the format and like what I think would make sense as to like what would open the format and make it more interesting and compelling for something beyond what we've always known. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, as somebody who like is super fucking entrenched, I could, like, you couldn't put me on a panel and not consider, like, not look at me as somebody who's an unbiased a player in that. You know what I mean? Like it's a good point on that end. But like it's interesting, like as Bryant, who is against it, and that now that he is for it because he has seen like how much WotC has failed in it, like he's a good flag bearer for like how, like if you could convince somebody who was vehemently against the legacy panel that now is actually a good time to have a legacy panel, it's like, okay, then it goes like maybe the question, rather than do we think we need a legacy panel, if we're all agreed more or less on that front, it goes, who or what is the qualifications to be on it? How many people is it?
I'm going to tell you, Phil, something and I think that you've gathered this from me, something that I've kind of always shied away from as far as this stuff was concerned is like, I don't want to be that guy. You know, I don't want to be the guy on the panel. But at the same time, if someone has to do something, I would be that guy on the panel.
Yeah, I think like,
I'm not putting myself up there as like hey, pick me, I want to be on the panel. I think that people need to step forward and say that they would be on the panel. And then the panel can decide how that stuff works and how the voting system works. And, you know, all that stuff is secondary to like, people have to step up and be like, we need a panel. I will be on it, you know, based on like, you know, I'm not saying I'm the least biased person. I think we should have biased people on there too. I think you should get people who are advocating for graveyard decks. I think we should get people who are advocating for combo decks. I think we should get people who are advocating for fair decks and have them get into a room or a Zoom call or whatever and fucking record it. Like put it all on the line, show everybody what that conversation looks like, and be like, here's the fucking sausage. Here's how the sausage is made. Here's how everybody played this. And then it's got to be done in a way that's like a vote or something. I don't know. I don't know how at the end of the day, I don't know how it would happen, but people have to step up and say, you know, instead of being like, I want it to happen, but I don't want to be a part of it because the internet is scary. Like Commander is its own cesspool of problems that is way different than Legacy. One, Legacy players are for the most part real adults in the real world who have real things to do that aren't just going to sit there and freak out every time a card gets banned. Not to the point where they're death threatening people or anything like that. And even if they were, that gets solved real fast. Like it's very easy to figure out who's being a jerk on the internet just because the community is very small, right? Compared to Commander, right? But beyond that, like, I just don't think that people are going to have the same, like, we're doing this for the health of the format and for the health of the game. So I don't think people are going to have the same take that the people on the Commander panel got for their like cavalier, like, oh, I don't like playing against these cards and they're gone. You know, like that's the way that felt to me. I don't play Commander enough to be like, oh, that was the take to make or whatever. But watching it from the outside, I was like, this is some cavalier bullshit attitude stuff that people made decisions on that had nothing to do with real data.
I think that there's a middle ground to be had. And I think that middle ground isn't necessarily that, come a legacy panel, that the legacy panel is the one making the decisions. What I actually think would be a beneficial first step in that direction is for WotC to acknowledge that the people that they have on the inside that like look and play legacy don't actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And therefore, at least outsource that part of it. At least get the feedback from specific, like, even if it's
I think that's a fine first step.
Give the legacy, like, rather than have a legacy panel with, like, influential decision-making power, we are going to outsource to get feedback about the format from however many players all in total. Like, even if they're just, sourcing it from, I don't know how they would do that, but rather than be like, you know what, we're going to have a legacy panel the way that we have a pauper panel, which is like these specific players from these regions that, do other, instead, just like, you don't even like have to name players. You could just be like, hey, we recognize that the people that are on the inside for us talking about legacy have not actually been able to keep up in a way that is meaningful or relevant. So what we're going to do is we're going to get feedback from the outside, and then we're going to use that to make our decisions. But WotC is still going to be the one curating and making the decisions. We're just not going to rely on like the one person in the building that we don't listen to anyway. Because
also
the one, when they were like, yeah, the person that was on the inside told us to ban grief and we just decided not to instead. It's like, okay, well then fuck off. Just outsource that part of it.
Why even tell us that? Like, why would you have this conversation?
But like just enough to be like, whoever we outsourced that, like curation to, not curation to, like information to like understand the format. What they told us was blank, 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 right? And so we've decided that based on the metrics that we know that we don't share with you because we don't want to be transparent about it, they told us this, we're seeing this in our data, and therefore we're going to make this decision. And then, like, that is not on them. They just gave us the information that then we cross-reference with, like, the data that we know that we don't share, and here's how we're going to make that decision. And then at least that's more, because then they don't have to go, hey, we like looked at legacy and we figured that it's like this stuff. And then they do say something that's extremely embarrassing that then we all make content on. And instead, just skip that step, be like, hey, we're going to have these people tell us what the format looks like. We're going to look at the decision that we want to make. And then somehow we're going to make, maybe a compromise or maybe not. But like, at least then we go, well, at least they're listening to some extent on the outside, rather than like, let's let the format, just be horrific for another Eternal Weekend or whatever it is, like.
The last 3 at least Eternal Weekends have been.
I can't remember the last time.
The last two.
I can't remember the last time there was an Eternal Weekend where it wasn't like, well, this is a lame duck.
Yeah, this is Tainted. Yeah, I mean, I think that and this is personal opinion here. I think that the one with expressive iteration wasn't as bad as.
Well, that was White Plume Adventurer, wasn't it?
No, White Plume Adventurer won Vintage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but like, and that's neither here nor there. Now, White Plume Adventure was in the format at the time, and I think that was not great.
No, but when White Plume was in the format, that was a 2-deck format.
It was a 2-deck format. I am saying, Phil, that format was less bad than the last 2 years of the last 2 years.
Get out of here with that!
Absolutely fucking terrible.
It was all terrible, but like initiative on turn 1 was certainly way worse.
Oh yeah, for you.
Double grief and initiative on turn 1. No, not just for me. For literally like every game, just coming down to like, okay, like here's the initiative just dictates the game every game for the rest of like that was horrendous. That was a horrendous time. I mean, it speaks to how bad it's been.
Yeah, I mean, I O2 dropped that Eternal Weekend, so I don't have a whole lot to say. Honestly,
but it was exactly.
That was the side event end boss Eternal Weekend. That was the last one that was in Philly.
That was a time where if you were a breakfast player, you were eating good against initiative, but it's tough against everything else. But
yeah. But to that end, at least the last 3, I can't even I don't remember the previous one. There might not have been a previous one.
What was
that? Might have been the year that
it was Grief, Psychic Frog, Vexing Bauble.
That was last year.
Yeah.
Then the one before that was
Grief,
right? Then the one before that was the initiative and expressive iteration. But what was before that? The year it was in Philly? What was the year before that?
What was the year before that?
Was it just Delver?
I don't remember the
I mean, it was the height. That was the height of the pandemic. That was like 2021, maybe, right? 24, 23. Yeah, it was 2021. So I don't know that there was an Eternal Weekend that year. Okay, Phil, let me know what were the decks. So like, when was the last time Legacy like Eternal Weekend was untainted? Right. Let's go all the way back, like as early as 2018.
2018 was the last time that I think Legacy didn't have a glaring issue that wasn't taken care of.
Well, what decks won? What was the top 8
the top 8 at the North American Legacy Eternal Weekend was Miracles, Storm, Sneak and Show, Check Pile, Turbo Depths, Grixis Control, Elves, and Turbo Depths.
And Miracles won.
Miracles beat Storm in the finals.
Wow. Okay, so that looks like a relatively fair year. Any standout cards? Any cards that got banned from that top 8? Anything like that?
No, this is back when accumulated knowledge was still seeing play.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's move on to 2019 then. 2019. I have 2019 here. So you've got Grixis Delver came in first. Snoko Situation. Snoko's Situation is a deck apparently that has Astrolabe and Oko Thief of Crowns. So those were not cards that were very good for the format. Delver, Grixis Delver tests Snow Control.
For what it's worth, for 2019, it was Tainted. It was the Oko era.
Yeah, correct.
It was Oko Arcum's Astrolabe, but we knew that wasn't sticking around.
Yeah. What 2020 was what was 2020?
Eternal Weekend. The winner of Eternal Weekend was 4-color Snoko.
Again in 2020.
Legacy Eternal Weekend 2020.
Yeah. Wow, that stuck around for a very long time.
I'm double checking.
Yeah, I'm looking now.
I have Snoko winning, beating Rug Delver in the finals.
Yeah, you're right. And this was because it was on Magic Online, because we were in the height of the pandemic. That's why there's like Magic Online names behind people's names. I was like, what the hell's going on? That's right. We didn't have like a real Eternal Weekend. But yeah, Snoko, Teamer Delver, Hogak, Death and Taxes, 5-color Snoko, 5-color Snoko, Eldrazi Aggro, and Death and Taxes. That's 3 Snoko decks. Again, that's Astrolabe and Oko were both in that format, and they should not have been in that format. There were obvious design mistakes. That's Tainted. So then 2021 is Ragavan.
2021 is Ragavan, and it was
2022 is White Plume and Expressive Iteration.
Yeah, for
2023 is Grief, right? And then 2024 was the format we currently have minus Vexing Bobble. So yeah, it's been since 2018 since the format's been good. And Psychic Frog, yes. But it's been since 2018 since the format has been like stable, since there hasn't been a basically tainted Eternal Weekend. Like, let's get on top of that. Come on. It's not that hard to make sure that the one staple event that happens a year is not a complete shit show as far as card selection is concerned.
I think when we say tainted, I just want to clarify that it's just like a known problem that WotC does not take care of before the event. And then people are like, I mean, this needs to go. The format is then overrun by that thing, whether or not it actually takes home the title. It controls the experience and controls how people are navigating the format, and then they get rid of it after the fact because they were like, yeah, this was a problem, and everybody agreed on it.
There's an argument to be able to forgive 2019 Snoko, but there's no argument to forgive 2020 Snoko.
Well, I
that's ridiculous.
I think 2020, when I honestly don't remember what the exact energy was during COVID where all the shops were closed, but there were just bigger problems, I think. And so,
yeah, that's fair.
I think you can give 2020 a wash because it was full lockdowns. People were trying to make sure that stores could stay.
No one was really playing Magic at that point.
And if
they
you
were all just playing Commander.
You're either playing on Moto or you're playing on webcam. I think you can give that amount of a grace period. But also in between then, you had Ren and 6, you had Underworld Breach. You had stuff that also needed to go in between, even if it didn't take over an Eternal Weekend. You had Luris, you had the era of Companions that also circumvented everything for a bit, even if it wasn't over an Eternal Weekend time, because it was so broken that they actually ended up taking care of it ahead of time. But there has since 2018, which was right after getting rid of Jataxian Probe and Sensei's Top, there wasn't 2017 was when you got rid of Top and Jataxian Probe. So then after that, you have 2018. 2018 looked pretty clean from what it was. Like there wasn't like that was back in a time where like you could still argue like TNN is like the biggest problem for people just because it's like uninteractive and like the format is different.
Yeah, I remember we were having podcasts where Nate was
Totally.
screaming his head off about
And
TNN.
again, it was one of those things because it was like it was so tilting because it was a card that like otherwise the pool of things that you could use to interact with it that were actually playable cards were so narrow that it became extremely frustrating to like, okay, I have to have this one thing for this one thing, or it like runs away with the game. That like if you were just extract that wider, that's every problem now. Like, oh, it's this one card that says in the text box essentially win the game on it if it's not dealt with immediately. Now the difference with TNN though is like, yeah, it took 5 turns.
Yeah, it's wild to think about.
Yeah.
Like that's well that to plug Premiere one more time, and we'll have the Discord link down below for Premiere, because there's no Commander product or Modern Horizons product in it. You end up with these much longer games that, like, now TNN not in the format, but a card like TNN can take over the game, but it's over the course of several turns. Like I was playing with Death Shadow, and my opponent reanimated my Street Wraith, and it took over the game because like I couldn't handle an unblockable 3-power creature in my Death Shadow deck.
I'm not,
but like,
yeah, I like for what it's worth, like not pouring one out for TNN. Like fuck that card. It's okay that it doesn't see any play
sure,
anymore.
yeah.
But like, I think like if we just look back at the Eternal Weekends and go, okay, like yeah, you knew about White Plume, you knew about Ragavan, you knew about Oko, you knew about Dread Arcanist, and
imagine how different these events would be if they'd have just taken action.
You knew about Grief, you knew about like, yeah, just take the action ahead of time and don't squander the major event. And but at the same time, it's like that is representative of WotC not learning from their mistakes, like the refusal to learn from their mistakes.
Phil, I think also they tend to handle bannings with kid gloves for all formats equally, and I don't think Legacy players need that. I don't think like I need as a Legacy player, I don't think I need them to be like, well, everyone's financial investment in this format that we've spent thousands of dollars in, right, is like maybe a problem if we ban a $30 card, they're gonna have to rejigger their deck and figure it all out on the fly. It's like we do that every week anyhow.
I think you made that touches to me on a different point, which I think is equally as salient, which is that they have not adjusted how they curate and affect the ban lists
per format
for the amount of output that they now churn for new cards. Like they've turned the gas up on power, they've turned the gas out on output, but they have not adjusted how they then curate the ban list after the fact. Now they've banned way more cards way more frequently, but that's just because they keep fucking missing on their development.
It's because they're designing too fast. I mean, and that's a whole other topic.
It's a whole other topic. But at the same time, if they understand that, like, hey, there's a bottleneck that we can't fill, which is we have to pump out these cards because we have to be able to provide for whatever value the company needs. That's the world we're in. That's the reality of the situation. Along with the amount that we're pumping out, we're also going to get way more aggressive about when something is clearly a mistake. We're going to get rid of it. And so, like, you could like argue right now, like, a bunch of the stuff on the ban list doesn't make sense with stuff that's legal, right? We make that with that debate all the time.
Every January,
but like,
we make that argument.
It's also suggestive that like the stuff that exists now that like is laughable that it exists, and then there's stuff on the ban list that's laughable that it's on the ban list by comparison, is also the era in which they were banned or the era in which they're not banned. Like the WotC as the body that is curating the format hasn't caught up to to their output, and they need to adjust. Like, which is what you're saying. It's like, hey, we don't need to be, handheld through this thing. Just take the action. And I think that, like, more so than taking the action and being like, oh, well, we don't want to screw over the players. It's like you're doing it by not taking the action because you're screwing over what the event would be otherwise because the format is terrible.
All right. Well, let's put a cap on this. What do you guys think? Community panel? Yes, obviously. But comment below how you feel about a community panel.
Range in between.
Give me your honest opinion. If you think that like it's a terrible idea, I do want to hear that opinion. Be respectful, a little bit respectful, I guess. I'm going to be as sassy as you are. I'm just going to put it that way. So, community panel is the first question. Second question is, do you think the bannings need to be more frequently? Do we need them when we know there's a problem? Which we often know pretty quickly. Like, a lot of people are invested in this format to a point where they're like, they see a card. It takes just a little bit of time for everyone to jump to the new deck. And certainly 3 months is plenty of time to see something. For them to be like, there's going to be a banning in 3 months. and then they skip it to get more data. That's
Zach, I'm
ridiculous.
going to be
I
the
don't know.
first in the comments. I want to see them do the ban, like ban something and then be like ban something and then be like, we're going to look at it again in 3 months. We will absolutely unban it if nothing changes in 3 months. But we're gonna take the
Phil-
shot on goal.
Phil, with that said, I do want to remind people we have a Patreon where you can get a lot of our inner workings and inner thoughts in the Patreon. You also get ad-free content. All of our content is ad-free, sans all ads in the Patreon for $5 a month. Or if you want to suggest a video or you want us to get to play a deck that you're into, do the deck donation tier and we'll make a video for you. We have somebody that's having us do a video for them right now, which will be pretty fun. To that end, thank you for watching and we'll catch you on the flip. Eternal Durdles is proud to be sponsored by Moxfield. Moxfield is the best Magic the Gathering deck building website on the internet. You can create, share, and find decks from Commander to Legacy and even fan-supported formats like Pre-Modern and Old School. You can see all of our decks on our Moxfield. Follow the links below to stay tuned.